Hi guys, this is Emnel. What you are about to watch is an instructional playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4. It is meant to replace and build upon the in-game tutorial. Tutorial in Hearts of Iron 4 is basically a lowest difficulty campaign as Italy with a dozen or so pop-ups that are meant to guide you through the first few months of the game. We are going to emulate that in the standard game though. Reason behind it is the difficulty settings. I usually play on veteran, but that would be too different from your first standard game. But recruit would be both mind-numbingly easy for me and probably too easy for many of you as well. So I suggest you pick the regular difficulty. Don't worry about the pop-ups. I will cover everything there was in them and then some in the first one or two videos. What I'm going to do here is cover basic and not so basic UI, game mechanics, basic decision making, and so on. You may, however, find this playthrough a bit too slow or too simple for you. If that's the case, go ahead and check my other playthroughs in which I play other nations on veteran difficulty. I also have a pretty big guide on Steam, including over 300 tips for new and not so new players, grouped in a dozen or so categories. So you may also want to check that and either read it to gather all the knowledge, or simply use it as a reference sheet when you play and are not sure about some of the mechanics. Links to the playlists of this series, other of my series, and that I just mentioned, as well as the guide, are all in the description. Without further ado, we are going to start a new game. We are sticking with Iron Man and historical AI focus. I suggest you keep that. As far as Iron Man goes, it's the personal preference. I take it is because I always play like this, and I would simply forget to save. I'm going to save that and start the game. Come on, here we go. First thing you want to do, and first thing tutorial suggests when you start playing a Paradox game, is to deal with all the pop-ups up top, well before you are on pause. Let's start with the first one, research. In Hearts of Iron 4 there are two research-like things, the thing called research as well as the focus. We'll talk about focus in a bit. Research is grouped in several categories, a dozen or so, and it is also linked to the years of the game, as you can see here. Those are older texts, circa World War I. Those are up to date, but if we were to, we will need to wait before we can research more advanced stuff as the years progress. But let's take a quick look through it. We'll discuss it in more detail later. Those are our basic infantry units, as well as motorized, as you can see here. Here are support battalions, things that specialized units that we may add to our divisions, such as engineers, recon companies, and so on and so forth. Here there are tanks and tank-based vehicles, such as self-propelled artilleries, tank destroyers, and so on. It's pretty self-explanatory. Those are towed artillery pieces, as well as anti-tank and anti-air ones. Here we have land doctrines. Those are a bit different because we can only use one of those four. We have to choose, and in this case we'll stick to the one our nation starts with, Grand Battle Plan Doctrine. Those aren't linked to the years, but they take quite a lot of time to research, so it will take a while till we are able to finish them all. But we are not, they are not gated behind that year requirement. Since we are here, take a look at this little symbol, a square with two arrows, and this is that means that, as you can see, those branches are mutually exclusive. We can only pick one. We'll get back to that later. Naval tech. Those are our ships, submarines, as well as landing craft tech. Hidden here down below in as a transport. We'll discuss them later as well, but in the first glance you can see that we have up-to-date battleships, as you can see here, and we do not have a tech to build any carriers. Rest are pretty obsolete, but we can build them anyway. Naval doctrine. Similarly to land doctrine, we can only pick one of those. In case of Italy, we start with fleet in being doctrine, and we'll stick to that. You can change those, but that basically costs us time, because we have to research the first one, and this one will disappear. Air. Bombers. We have light and heavy group here. We have fighters, close air support, naval bombers, heavy bombers, tactical bombers. As Italy, we start with pretty good selection. Not as good as a few other nations, but it's not bad. We are missing a fighter, and we'll want to work on that later. In later years, as you can see, up to 1950, there are jet engines and jet-propelled aircraft. Air doctrine, same thing, except we are not starting with any. We can pick anyone, the one we want. Engineering. Here we have things that affect our research speed. Radars, radar installations, encryption and decryption, as well as some more advanced stuff such as atomic research and those jet engines that may be used in our aircraft. And lastly, there is industry. Those are our this line covers our production efficiency. We'll speak about that later. Those two lines are responsible for our industry and industrial output as a whole, and construction is responsible for how fast we can erect new buildings, such as factories, airfields, forts, and so on. And those little texts here improve our resource gain in our territory. And this allows us to build synthetic oil factories, synthetic refineries that produce oil and rubber for us. We'll get to the nitty-gritty details of that later, but for now, what you want to pick in almost every game are those three techs: basic machine tools, construction, as well as electronic mechanical engineering for your research time. Fourth one is a bit more fluid. You can go with your start researching your doctrine, which is always nice, and you usually want to keep researching those whenever you can. They provide a very significant bonuses, so unless you are in dire need of something else, go ahead with that. We could also research up-to-date tanks. Light tanks are very handy early on, or another research that you may want to keep in mind is up-to-date fighters. In our case, we will stick to the standard choice of Grand Battle Plan doctrine. Here we go. If we see the next pop-up, we are actually at war. We're at war with Ethiopia. We'll deal with that one later, as soon as we finish with our other pop-ups. Here, civilian factories. You can go here by clicking T or by pressing T or clicking this icon. Those are buildings we may build military factories, civilian factories, naval dockyards, as well as more infrastructure projects such as naval bases, infrastructure, air bases, radar station, AI, and so on. We'll discuss those later. For now, since we are not going to fight a major war anytime soon, we are going to start by building civilian factories. The thing about civilian factories is that they are used for producing all the buildings. So the more civilian factories we have, the faster we can build those, but also military factories that we'll need. We are going to queue quite a few. We don't want to fill our provinces to the brink. As you can see, this one can only fit 6 factories now, and it has already 5. So since there is only 1 out of 8 here, we'll start by sticking a few more here. Each factory may be, or each building really, may be built by using up to 15 factories. We only have 12. We cannot change it willy-nilly. We can, however, change the order in which they are built. It will simply fill to 15, rest will go here, and so on and so forth. This is the thing you want to start building as Italy and most nations. For more details, just check my other playthroughs, since there are some nations where you are actually better suited by starting building military factories or even naval dockyards. Here we go. The production screen is where our military factories come to play. We have 19 and are already using 9 of those. We have naval dockyards as well, as you could have noticed here. What we are going to do is check our logistics and see what looks like we have all we need for now. That may actually update in a little bit, so don't. I'm pretty sure we are actually missing, if I remember, collecting quite a lot of infantry equipment. Infantry equipment is used by your standard infantry, your motorized infantry, your cavalry, everything. It's your bread and butter, and we want to start by building that. There's also support equipment and motorized for our infantry needs. Support equipment is used for those separate companies such as Recon and Engineers. We are going to put a few factories in that as well. As you can see here, we are missing rubber and we are missing oil. We are not producing any of those, but we can still produce those things, but the speed in which they are produced will be reduced by the percentage of resources we lack. In this case, we only have 40% of needed resources, and that's what happened here. We don't want to build those tanks. If you noticed earlier, we don't have tanks that are up to date. We are going to cancel this for now. Closer support, we do have up to date, and since the factories that are signed from the get-go before we unpause to the existing production lines have maximum efficiency, it's not a bad idea to keep that working. We will, however, focus on. Thing is that we can buy both rubber and oil in bulks of 8. For that reason, we will put those to 4 each. Actually, by cutting that down a little bit. I will show you in a sec. But first, let's assign our battleships and whatnot, our naval dockyards. First thing you do not want to do is cancel those. See this bar? This is the building progress. And if I've seen some YouTubers simply cancel the things that are already being built, and for example here wasting 95% of a light cruiser. That's just silly. As I mentioned, it doesn't matter that we do not have oil to spare, and that we do not want to buy oil to invest in our navy just yet. They will still build as long as we have both chromium, or either chromium or steel in this case. Those are our up-to-date battleships, and we are going to invest in those. But first, let's finish that light cruiser. That's almost done. We are building two destroyers, as you can see here. We could either click that twice and make them produce it all the time, or we can just stick to one. If we had a production of eternal production, we can just select one to make them only finish the one that is here, and then move to other things. That's what we are going to do, since those are not up to date. We'll just start by pumping out a few more battleships, and we will get more destroyers later on once we get the tech for those. And that being said, let's assign those factories here. Here, the order in which those production lines are positioned is important. It will not change the factories that are already assigned. So, for example, if I've done that, those three factories wouldn't jump there. But if I have here, first three factories available will fill that or that, depending on the order in which those things are. You can shift click to put it to the bottom or the top. Usually you want to keep your navy down bottom. We really want to focus on our land forces here. And what I've done, that I want to finish this, and then those five naval dockyards will jump up here. Pretty simple, eh? Similarly here, those three will jump up here. Let's actually do that. Alright, and that will finish at some point in 6 months or so. We can also add new stuff. Armored vehicles here, planes here, and various ships here. What we want to add is towed artillery. We only have 2 tungsten, and for that reason we are actually going to use that tungsten right now. We'll axe 2 of those and add them there. Problem is that we would have to spend a civilian factory to buy more tungsten, so we'll bite the bullet, get less infantry equipment, but keep using that tungsten we have as long as we have it. Now for the trade. Trade is pretty straightforward. As you remember, we were 8 rubber short. We click on rubber, and those are the nations that have rubber for us. We are going to buy a little bit from United Kingdom. Well, you know what? Let's try buying them from Brazil. If you know the first thing of World War II, about World War II, you know that nations such as United Kingdom, Netherlands, France, British Raj will become our enemies. So, first of all, they will cut us off, and second, we will be feeding them civilian factories by buying their stuff. As you can see here, that costs us 1 civilian factory. What that we aren't actually giving them the factory, we are selling the output of one of those factories for them to them for that resource. We will be able to we are able to cancel those at any given moment, or same goes for starting new ones. And here, for the same reason, we are going to buy 1 factory worth of oil from Venezuela. It should affect our needs here shortly. Oh, look at that. You know what? We are going to cancel. Okay, here we go. We want to produce 4 and 4 since we have 8 oil and 8 rubber, and those are rare resources for us. Okay, now for the nitty gritty, the national focus. National focus is what defines the nation most of the time. Research is the same. You start with different levels of research in various fields, but it will sooner rather than later more or less equalize. Rather later, but same thing. National focus is different for all major nations, as well as nations that minor nations who have who got their trees given via DLCs or so on. For now, only nations that do have personalized focus trees are Soviet Union, United States, United Kingdom, France, Italy, German Reich, Japan, and thanks to the first day DLC, Poland. By the time you watch this video, there may be much more, so keep that in mind. Other nations, such as, for example, Romania here, have the basic focus tree that is the same for all the nations. I will play one of the at least one of the minor nations that use that in not so distant futures, so you'll be able to see it here. But let's for now focus on the focus tree of Italy. What you want to look first, it may look intimidating, but it's actually pretty simple. Before we delve into that, let's take a look at various trees. This one, starting with Ethiopian and War Logistics, leads us to some free civilian factories, free military factories, as well as extra research slots. Remember that when we were doing research, we had 4 slots. That will add the 5th one, basically increasing our research by 25%. Very important thing, as you can imagine. And so on. Here are things that affect our army and our navy. A lot of those provide research bonuses. If you can see here, 2 times 50% research bonus for land doctrine. What that means is that our next research in land doctrine will take only 50% of the time, and we can do it twice. It will not affect the research we are doing right now, so you don't have to worry that if your research is 90% done, this will be wasted. Nope, it is only going to affect your next research. Okay, same goes for those are also naval ones. Here you have research bonuses for some. Those are, I believe, destroyers, and those are doctrines. Convoy sailing is part of the doctrine tree. Here are more interesting things, political ones. So once we win the war with Ethiopia, we are able to pick that. This is not available for us right now. Only the ones that are of a steel color are. So clamps and 10 will be able to, for example, attempt to claim Yugoslavia and get a war goal on them and go to war with them, or perhaps befriend them. 2 major choices here are either Pact of Steel, so we can align ourselves with Germany and join the Axis, or we can choose Italy first and start our own faction. Both lead to various other things that we'll discuss a bit later. I think we'll be playing historical Italy and stick with Germany. But those choices are very important and will affect your whole game. Side side project here is is this one, for example, that allows us to support nationalist Spain when the Spanish Civil War starts and so on, and then here would if we okay, if you look at those lines, this requires both Italy first, go this line right here, and support nationalist Spain, and then and only then we'll be able to pick that. This one is mutually exclusive, so we can either form an alliance or demand their islands. This, as you can imagine, is only available when we pick the one above. Here, however, the dotted line means that either of those requires one of the following. As long as one of those is done, we are good to pick that. The same goes for air innovations here. It's available as soon as Army Primacy or Mare Nostrum are done. We are going to what we want to usually go for first when looking through a new focus tree and deciding what to start researching, quote unquote, are free factories and extra research slot. This is beyond easy for Italy, which has those all the way down here. However, as you can see here, this wait, what? Doesn't require? Pretty sure it required. Never mind. Let's start with Ethiopian research. Alright, it is the other way around. As you can see, modernized army requires industrial effort, but industrial effort 2 only requires industrial effort 1. Sometimes those can be misleading. I haven't played Italy in a while, hence my confusion. But what you want to always do is just click and see what things are required. Either way, we're going with Ethiopian war logistics, which aren't all that important, but lead us to much greater things. Here we go. And our air wings with no mission, but we'll deal with that a little bit later. Divisions and insufficient resources will be dealt with in a second. Before we finish this episode, I'm sorry I know we haven't done much, but I wanted to get you up to speed on the basics. And now let's look at the war and do some basic things here. For now we are only interested in the army, since there is no coast and no Ethiopian navy to worry about. What we want to do first is select all those units that are in Eritrea and click here, down here, to create an army out of them. As you can see, we have an army. There are 40 divisions in it. All those divisions are listed here. I am using NATO counters. I know it may be a little bit confusing and probably don't have a place in a standard game, but please stick with me. What you do to enable them is go to game options, go to game, and use NATO symbols. I think they are really much better, much cleaner, and overall superior to those silly icons used in the standard game. What that means is that's infantry with those with a cross. Here we're infantry with something that looks like a mountain. Those are mountain divisions, mountaineers, basically. Those are all the same. If we take a look into Italy, we'll see more mountaineers. So here, this that looks like a lance, it's cavalry. And lastly, those that look like tracks of the tank are tank divisions. And I'm not sure we have one. Let's take a look. Motorized divisions. Well, motorized divisions are so that motorized infantry look like infantry, but with two small wheels on the bottom. Well, you're up to speed. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to follow that. So let's continue. Now since we already have an army, we want to assign a commander. Here, click to assign on the portrait. We will take the one with the highest speed, with the highest skill for now, and we can also look at what their traits are. This one is a panzer leader. We don't use any panzers here, but let's do that. This skill 4, which will give our units plus 20% of both attack and defense. It's 5% per piece. And then we'll select that army and either press Z or Z, or just click here to create a front line. We'll click on this one of those provinces and basically on those on the border with Ethiopia here. This will create a front line. Once we have a front line, we can make an offensive order. For now, we'll take a basic. We'll paint a basic one that makes them advance into Ethiopia. I will explain how those work later. But what we want now is them to regroup and start gaining planning bonus. Planning bonus is something that not to explain it. It's a stat that involves things such as mapped terrain, prepared supplies, cooperation between various units, and all that comes from careful military preparation. For example, if you have an offensive planned beforehand, your units will work better than when they have to make snap judgments on their own, and they haven't trained for that earlier. So that's a fairly significant bonus. As you can see, it's a 50%. It's a 50%. It may not mean much, but once we get to combat, you will see that's a lot. Here we have another army. For the same, we are going to create a new one here, since we could add them there and assign them to a new group here, but we are going to create a new one. We are going to use another one of our guys who isn't an old guard. He's only a skill 1, but he will have a chance to get some experience. We'll do the same thing, click around the border here. Just keep in mind not to click on another border. For example, if I clicked here, it would create a front line with the United Kingdom, and we don't want that. Let's cancel that. Once again, create a front line, click, and make an offensive order. Let's try it for Addis Ababa, I guess. Here we go. I think that's enough for now. We'll continue explaining how the first battle plans work, and then how combat works, as well as discuss division designs and what armies to produce. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you did like it, please consider subscribing as well as liking. If you have any questions that aren't explained that aren't answered in following videos, please ask them in the comments, and well, see you next time.